What questions do we have?
Anything you want. Go ahead.
So, what's your next move if the motion to quash is rejected?
So the motion to quash is limited to the facts as presented in the swear-to. The next step is to conduct the preliminary examination where there will be sworn testimony under oath with cross-examination, because not everything presented is true, but even as presented doesn't create a crime. And that is the basis of why we're challenging this. Ultimately, the preliminary examination would allow us to place witnesses under oath and ask questions about that.
And if the motion is upheld?
So if the motion is upheld, the charges, some or all of them, would be dismissed, and the ones that are remaining would be subject to a preliminary exam, if any. And then it is likely that that decision may be, if the judge issues a written opinion that's favorable to the defense, the other side may seek to appeal that. And if they issue an opinion that is favorable to the Attorney General, we may choose to appeal that or go forward. But ultimately, there are a few filters on charging a defendant with a crime. And one of them is that you have to allege facts sufficient to support a finding that there's reasonable cause to believe a crime was committed. So remember, Michigan doesn't use an indictment with the grand jury. It uses a complaint and a warrant. And this was an unusual affidavit because in the averments, the paragraphs, it set forth a lot of law. And those legal conclusions are what I am suggesting were not properly portrayed to the court.
In the previous sessions that some of us tried to watch but weren't able to, was Mr. Cotton and his participation in the examination of the polling data, was he acknowledged as under attorney-client privilege?
Yes. So I apologize about the Zoom, but they had 400 people. They had no way to sort. They were concerned it would crash the system. So ultimately, the issue there is a live issue. The Attorney General agreed that Mr. Cotton was a expert who was underneath the extension of the attorney-client privilege for work product. And what that means is, very clearly, is that you have the same protections, and it protects communications. The challenge is, we were arguing about whether that was an absolute bar to him testifying, not that we're afraid of him testifying, but because without Mr. Cotton, there's no claim of disclosure, which isn't a crime that she's even charged with here. Either of the defendants are not charged with disclosure. But without that, their case fails. He's a necessary witness. So they're trying to now change him from an expert witness under MRE 702 to offer an opinion to become a fact witness about the communications and transfer within the scope of him working. I think the most key thing for people who aren't involved in the legal system to remember is that the information that your attorney and her legal team has, even if it's confidential and privileged information, they stand in the same shoes as the defendant in this case. So if the judge accepts that argument, there is no ability to show improper access or a transfer of information in any form or fashion. I want to just point out for the record that I'm disturbed about the timing of this in relation to the Macomb County civil case and the fact that Stephanie Scott had announced she was running for the Hillsdale County clerk's position. So this charge came immediately on the heels of that. I have asked in writing for a dismissal, suggesting that this prosecution may be in bad faith.
Mr. Hartman, am I understanding this correctly? They have an immunity deal with Ben Cotton, but you all paid to fly him here to testify. I think I just saw him standing over there talking with you all. Is he your witness or is he their witness?
All right. So first of all, immunity just means that the statements and the testimony he gives will not be used against him.
So is it a proffer, or do they have some type of, they have a deal with him?
So what you guys missed at the meeting last time, and thank you for this question, the gist of the meeting was, not that we care if Ben Cotton has immunity because he didn't commit a crime. The gist of the meeting was I asked the Attorney General, please state the crime you suspect he's committed. And the Attorney General conceded during the hearing that he did not suspect Ben had committed a crime. And without Ben Cotton having committed a crime, I was saying that there was no need to grant immunity except for the perception in the public. So Mr. Cotton is a member of the defense team, and they are trying to infringe on the Sixth Amendment right to counsel, which includes your ability to hire an expert. And he hasn't even been offered as a testifying expert. He was used to look at the data, and his findings were what is significant. That's the news story. How come there's a 10% discrepancy in his report, which is filed in Macomb County, between the data on the poll book and the data that the Secretary of State reports as far as the voters of Adams Township? That's the crime.
Does his deal in this case affect the other prosecution in Oakland County?
Yeah,
Because I've heard he has a deal in that case, but I don't know that to be true.
Oh boy. Okay. I have a limited benefit of making a brief comment on that. What I will just say is there was no crime committed in Oakland County either. I was not the attorney during the initial workup. Let me be clear here. The crime that is charged is that a clerk underneath a contract to maintain their own election system brought in outside experts besides the state as a check and balance to see if they were properly maintaining and controlling. Please remember the narrative that was going on in 2020, that the machines were air-gapped and they were not connected to the internet. We later find out there are cellular transmission chips in there, and there are multiple points of connectivity. So now it is changed, even in the state contracts, from an air gap situation that they contract that they're transferring the data. They used to go through a charade of removing the tabulator disk and carrying it to the clerk's office. Meanwhile, they would transmit the data. And the connectivity is the problem, because there are foreign and domestic enemies that then access our voting system and select our leaders. And that is the reason that there is a fight. And that's what this is about.
Sorry, but
Any other questions?
I got a question.
Real quick.
I'm part of the Republican Party here in Hillsdale, and we've been talking about how do we do a grand jury here. We can do it.
Yeah.
It's in the Constitution. And I'd like to start a grand jury here in Hillsdale.
So, sir, I can't give you legal advice on that, but if there was a grand jury going anywhere, it would be secret. And let's just pretend that maybe somebody is looking at it.
Hey, I've got a
I got to run.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.